I'm Mike Jennings. I'm the General Secretary of the Irish Federation of University Teachers from Ireland, obviously, and I'm speaking at the conclusion of the first World Women's Conference of EI, which was a major success. I had the honour and the opportunity of speaking myself in the last session, and I expressed my deep appreciation, not just as a trade unionist, but as a man, to the sisters and delegates and leadership for giving me the opportunity to participate. And I said that I found that one of the most remarkable and most welcome aspects of the conference was the sense of inclusiveness, that everybody has a role to play in the struggle so that we can achieve the full emancipation of women in society, so that we can truly say that we have an equal society. And there was a very strong sense that this is not just a role for women, but obviously it is a task which will be led and should be led by women and supported by men. But there is a role for men in this also, and I felt deeply grateful for that. I also have to say that I have the honour of attending many conferences, but this conference, there was such a sense of goodwill and solidarity, and the mood was so positive and so upbeat that it was truly refreshing, so that was particularly good. In my own union, which represents university teachers and professional staff and researchers in Irish universities and other higher education institutions in Ireland, to some degree we have a structural equality for women in issues such as equal pay, maternity benefit and so on. But there is still a huge amount of barriers to the full career development of women, even in higher education. So that when you look at the salaries over the lifetime of the individual academic, it is still the case that the lifetime salary of the male academic will still be much higher than the lifetime salary of the average female academic, which has got to do with lack of promotion and so on, and lack of women in the senior leadership positions. So it is important to recognise that equality isn't just about simple things such as equal pay. It is about the entire experience of work, and there is a lot of work to be done yet. The phrase was used at this conference, which I had not heard before, which is a very interesting phrase. It was gender fatigue. And it was explained that gender fatigue is a sense that, you know, everything has been achieved and there is nothing more to be done, or there is no point in doing any more. And sometimes I'm quite disturbed when I hear especially young women saying that they are not feminists because they don't think that there is a need for feminism, because they think everything is equal. And I think that it is great that they feel that way in youth, but unfortunately I think by the time they come to the end of their career, if things don't change, they will realise that that is an over-optimistic assessment of what their experience will be. So it is important that we revitalise the message of the emancipation of women, and that we make people, particularly where I come from in Western Europe, to see that it is still hugely relevant and necessary. That's very important. The other thing that I'm conscious of is that despite the fact that we have excellent participation, I would say equal participation in membership terms by women in my union, the Irish Federation of University Teachers, it is still the case that at our senior executive level, the women are underrepresented, and they are not there in proportion to the members, the number of women members. So that says to me that not only is does society need to ask itself hard questions, but I appreciate that my union, and I, as General Secretary of my union, we have to ask ourselves hard questions. Are we doing enough? So this is what I've taken from the conference. I found it inspiring. I found that it is always easier to go back and to continue the struggle when you come away from a conference with a sense of encouragement that things are moving forward and that things are happening. So personally, professionally and as a trade union official, I feel very much revitalised and invigorated by the conference. And I can truly say that the slogan, the motto of the conference rings very true for me. And I do feel, yes, we are on the road to equality. There is a lot of road to be travelled yet, but we are on the road and we will get there. I represent professors, but I also, most of our members in the Irish Federation of University Teachers are lecturers who haven't yet got to the stage of professors, because professors are a minority. But it's also very important to remember that a substantial number of the members of my union lecture in the colleges of education. So we are lecturing to the students who will become the teachers in primary education. And I believe passionately that, of course, you have to have universal participation in primary education. Not just universal entitlement, because we know that in most countries there is a legal entitlement to primary education, but unfortunately the participation doesn't reflect that. So I have no difficulty, and I have never seen a contradiction, because it is not a case of first level or second level or third level education. All of education has its own benefit, but I would, even as a university teacher's representative, I would absolutely accept the huge and fundamental importance of primary education. Of course, it's a fact. It's obvious, yes, for me. I felt it was a feminist gathering, but I suppose I should recognise that some people, particularly as I said earlier, young women, sometimes misunderstand what is meant by feminism. I regard myself as a feminist, even though I'm a man, because my definition of feminism is anybody who has the ideology that women and men should be completely equal, not the same, but completely equal in our opportunity and our life experience, and should have the same benefits and the same conditions in all aspects of our life: pay, career, facilities, recognition of our separate needs, and so on. So it disturbs me sometimes when people say that they are, yes, in favour of women's rights, but they're not feminists, because I think that they must therefore believe that feminism is in some sense anti-man. I don't regard it as such, so I have no difficulty declaring that I regard myself as a feminist. So I felt very comfortable at this conference in that it was a feminist conference, but it was not an anti-man conference, it was an inclusive conference to achieve the emancipation of women. My message to sisters is, listen to the positive message. I hope it is not facile to say that people were still so cheerful and so positive even when they were identifying the enormity of the challenge that faces us. So I think it is very important in a struggle that we are all the time optimistic that we can achieve. So to my sisters I would say, stay positive, stay engaged, do not take no for an answer. If you are not elected the first time, do not walk away. Come back and demand to be elected the second time. Keep going. To my brothers I would say, just as racism is not just the concern of the victims of racism, racism is a concern for all humanity. And to my brothers I would say, equally, the emancipation of women is the concern of all humanity. It is the responsibility of men. For generations we men have created a patriarchal society. Our sons have not created that society. It is important that our sons and our daughters grow up in a society that doesn't have, and that is our responsibility, to support women and also to take our own initiatives. I feel this conference makes me understand that women also want us as men to support and to be involved. So I say, don't be afraid, be involved, and your support will be greatly appreciated.